Aidan Chiles, yeah, that's right. We're still going to talk about the man of the hour. Is it growing pains? Can it be fixed? Will it ever be fixed? Well, we're going to talk about it with Chase Glasser. Let's go.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for tuning in to Locked On Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We do this 5 days a week, and my goodness gracious, against all odds, still 1 day a week, we drag this man back on. His name's Chase Glasser, does fantastic work for Spartans Illustrated. But before letting him speak, hey guys, please rate, review, subscribe, comment below. If you're also at DEFCON 1 about Aidan Chiles, like many of the fan base is, if you listen to yesterday's show or even the post-game show, you know that yes, those were some bad mistakes, but also yes, we're not just going to give up on the kid 4 games into his career as a starter. So without further ado, Chase, this is going to carry a lot of the show here. Just talk about Aidan Chiles because, just like I told you before we started recording, never after any game in the 4-ish years I've been doing this have I gotten so many emails in the inbox just talking about Chiles. Some all the way at, you got to bench him right now, all the way to, very upbeat and cheery, kind of like how we've been, showing more patience than just 4 games. But there's a common thread with a lot of them. Of course, growing pains is a buzz term that we threw around a lot, still being thrown out. How much of this is quote-unquote growing pains? What is there actually to be concerned about? Or just kick off the Aidan Chiles conversation however you'd like, because you got a good film room coming over at Spartans Illustrated. I'm excited to read it.
Yes. Yeah, it's going to be very, very Chiles-focused, as you'd expect. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's so much to get into. So, I mean, I think you start off with, in the offseason, we all talked. I think the people who are, we're not expecting him to win the Heisman this year. Mm-hmm. We're saying, hey, listen, he's going to be very young. I think he just turned 19.
Yeah,
right?
Correct. Yeah.
He's very young, and he's going to make some really, really awesome plays and be really electric. And he's also probably going to make some really boneheaded plays and cost us a game. And I think that, at least from what I could see, there was a pretty broad acceptance of that in the fan base. Mm-hmm. And then exactly what we talked about happened. And then people say, now I don't like that.
There was a lot of comments like, we're going to live and die by this guy. And we love it when we're living with him. Like, even during the game against Boston College, that scram on 3rd and 10, it's like, I remember I was sitting next to my son who was watching Bluey. I was watching the game on my phone, and I looked at my son who's about to be 4, and I said, you'll never make me as happy as this kid does right now on my phone. Partially kidding. That wasn't a direct quote, but but the die part is not so fun as we saw on Saturday. But yeah.
I mean, before we get into everything, I will come out and say, yes, there are far too many turnovers. It is unacceptable to take care of the ball that way. It's not good. It's bad. There, we said it.
There we go. All right. End of show.
Yeah, right. But so, yes, it's bad. But I mean, to what end? It's like I always, it's like maybe a fan base thing, not Michigan State's fan base, just people in general, where it's like, well, this is unacceptable. Well, what does that mean? Right? Like, are we going to bench somebody because it would make you feel good personally, or because that's really what's best for the team and the development of the team? Like, it's not, these things aren't punitive. You have to grow, and you get better at football by playing football. Like I said, it is unacceptable where he's at right now. You can't be this sloppy with the ball. Now, I think, like we said, we both thought that there'd be some really high highs and some really low lows. And I think you saw both those in that game. There was a kind of cover 2 hole shot out route that he really layered in nice. And I was like, that is an NFL throw. Mm-hmm. And then there was the scramble that was like, oh my gosh, you can't teach that. That's outstanding. That there is not a team on MSU's schedule where that's not going to play. And then there was everything else. Yeah, 10 of 24, I think, with 3 picks. That's really bad. I thought the worst ball he threw all day was the one where 2 Boston College players were so eager to intercept that they both ran into each other.
It was so bad it was a good throw. Yeah,
right. I think PFF has him for almost 8 turnover-worthy plays a game, I think. And that comes out to like 1 turnover-worthy play every 12 dropbacks, I think. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where you are in your development. You cannot have that. I can't say that in strong enough terms. That's not going to be good for the team. That said, yeah, a lot of it is you get better at football by playing football, and you can get better from there. I mean, look at this offensive staff. These guys had DJ Uiagalelei looking like a quasi-functional college quarterback.
Competent. Right.
Right? So it's certainly there, and he's really, really young. And something that I've actually admired about Smith, just because I think it shows a lot of confidence in himself and where they're going, is he lets him cook. There's a lot of coaches who would really put the quarterback in a box, really, really limit them. Really, it's not overcoaching. It's a philosophical thing where, hey, we are going to limit turnovers, and limiting turnovers is critical. I mean, it is not good when you have more interceptions than Davis Warren. I mean, Michigan literally decided
that's tough.
to literally eliminate the forward pass from the offense, then throw picks. It's really damaging to your offense. But he also has incredible upside, and you see that during the game. So it's a balancing act, and it's really frustrating when it doesn't go well, and you do want to see improvement. Now, we're 4 games in. We're 3-1. I think that's pretty good.
It's fine.
Bounce go differently. This could be looking at 1-3. It's not. It's 3-1. Now, yes, it gets real now, and the schedule gets a lot harder.
Not fun.
When you come out of the October gauntlet, and you think, and I still think Michigan State's going to pick up 1 or 2 in there. You want to see him, okay, maybe he's grown a little bit, and he's making you're not throwing a ball up into double coverage on first down when you escape a sack. You can't do that, right? Yeah. You can't do that. You got to have that situational awareness. It's not like he's not being told that. I guarantee you.
Sure, yeah, of course. Yeah.
So you do want to see that growth, and I think you can see it incrementally week over week. You want to see those turnover-worthy plays get cut down. I think there's really 2 aspects of it that I want to talk about. So there's the intellectual side of it, which I think you will absolutely see get fixed, where it's just understanding coverage, understanding leverage, understanding how to work through a progression that differs by formation, that differs by play, that differs by the look you get from the defense. It's a lot. I mean, it is a lot. So I think you should expect that to improve. And I think if you look at Smith and Lindgren, their body work, I think we can expect it to improve. Now, the other part of it is just kind of the mechanical or physical aspect of it. And I'm not a quarterback mechanics guy. I'm not. But I mean, you've seen multiple times. There was a play against Maryland where it was the pick where he has a guy open, he reads the defense correctly, he steps into a throw, and it's just like 2 feet too high, and it goes to a safety. One of the picks I thought was like that, where he had Velling sitting down behind the linebackers beneath the safeties, where he was living all day, and right read, threw him the ball, and it just comes out a little bit to the right, and it gets picked. It's just that I don't know what to do with. It could be, hey, he was young, he had really bad mechanics, but it didn't matter in high school because he's more athletic than everybody else, and you could get away with it. You see that a lot where guys can get away with just good mechanics. That's something that they would have to look at internally and fix, whether it's an arm slot thing, if it's I don't know. I'm not a mechanics guy, but it does seem like there's accuracy concerns to an extent. Now, there's other times where he's putting it on a rope, layering it between 2 guys, and it's like that. You cannot do it better. Right. So, I think with Chiles, it's he's not going to get benched. He provides an extraordinary amount of upside.
Right.
I mean, the interceptions and the turnovers, it's not good. And certainly it needs to come down. There's no getting around that. But also Michigan State, I mean, you don't want to say it, but they're not trying to compete for the conference this year. They're trying to get better. And
it sucks to say, but we've been parading that all offseason too. It's like this isn't necessarily going to be a college football playoff year. And that doesn't make, Saturday any easier pill to swallow, because it was right there. But that's factual. Like, I'll back up what you said right there. I mean, that's just an honest.
This isn't your, hey, it's 2013, it's 2014, it's 2015. We've got a squad and a core here that you only get once in a very long time.
Sure.
Every game matters because we're going for it.
Yep.
That's not this. This is building towards that.
Exactly.
And it's kind of taking some of those lumps.
More to come with our guy Chase Glasser, but first need to talk your ears off about Roy. It is time to highlight my Roy Player of the Week. But first, let's learn a little about Roy. Roy is a new platform that lets fans make contributions directly to their favorite athletes. Download Roy for iOS or Android and enter referral code LOCKEDON, and you'll automatically be entered into a sweepstakes to win $5,000 cash. No purchase necessary, void where prohibited. Now this week, you know what? We're going to go the defensive side of the ball. Got it. You know what? If we can have co-players of the week, screw it. We're going to do it. Jordan Hall and Wayne Matthews, two linebackers, really stood out great for Michigan State in the close loss to Boston College, of course. Wayne Matthews seemed like he was all over the field. I thought there were two Wayne Matthews last week. And Jordan Hall, strong hits all game, namely that 4th and goal stop at the 1-yard line. God, I really wish that counted in a win. Anyway, guys, if you were impressed with either of their performances on Saturday, you can show them love too. Just hop on Roy and throw in a few bucks. If everyone pitches in just $10, well, guys, it adds up fast for the players like Jordan Hall, your Wayne Matthews. Now you have the chance to show your appreciation for those guys. And you know what? Their standout performances of the week, as well as what it will mean to bring to the program. Now, guys, get off the sidelines and get into the NIL game with Roy. Again, get off the sidelines and into the NIL game with Roy. Also, small business owners, you know that hiring can be a slog. Well, when you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you got to go check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. That's right, my favorite part. Now, LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you cannot find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, it's easy. You're just not looking in the right place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. So what do you got to do? Well, hire professionals like a professional right there on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
I would also say, Isaiah Johnson played really, really, really good. I thought for where he was coming into the season, the way he's had to step up the last 2 games. Montorie Foster did some good things as well, but he was down a lot of his targets. That's not
nothing. It's not nothing.
That doesn't mean that he can all of a sudden just throw it into a safety's chest. That's not what I'm saying. But
sure.
It is. I do want to note that because he was down a lot. And also, when you don't have somebody like Nick Marsh who can stretch the field laterally, maybe you sit on routes a little bit more and you understand where things are going. And when Montorie Foster is running into the end zone, there are 2 people on him and not one because you don't have, it's hard to say. But that did happen, and I think that should be noted. But let's be very clear: the interceptions, the turnovers, this has been an issue from the first game. I mean, from
the first play.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And now, granted, I don't think that one was necessarily his fault, but
sure.
At some point, this is a feature and not a bug, and that needs to come down. So there's no way around it. It needs to come down. And I think just under the question, where does he need the most work? I think just the broad kind of strokes, understanding how to play within the offense. I think when he gets in trouble, it's when he tries to do it all himself. It's first down. I just made a great play getting out of a sack. Well, I'm not going to run for 5 yards. I'm not going to get into the flat and throw it out of bounds. I'm going for it.
Yep.
The discretion is the better part of valor. You understand that, I think, in time. You can't make all the plays at once. You want to go out there, you're super fired up. You want to do everything at once for everybody. You got to stay within yourself, and you have to just make those plays, take it one play at a time. And you get that maturity by growing up, and he's still very young.
More than 4 games.
Starting.
Right.
Yeah. So exactly. Yeah. So now, Matt, I'd say if we're having the same conversation in the first week of December, then it's like, okay, maybe the track here, the development track is not necessarily what we thought it was.
That is where I wanted to go. It's like, how long can this linger before you actually start getting worried? Because, guys, I promise you, I know some of you are already sick of that I'm doing this already 4 games in. I won't do this as an entire career if we are truly on this 21 interception season clip that we're on right now. So for me, it would be like if you get out of October and it still is just not looking right, you're still missing the deep shots, which is what I'm even more concerned about, missing the wide open throws than I am the interceptions at this point. But I would say early November, and I know that's bordering on 9-10 games at that point, but I didn't know I was this patient of a person, I guess, until I started doing this show here after the Boston College game. But boy, howdy, I've got a lot of patience, I guess. Chase, do you have as much patience, or do you have even more than that?
Yeah, I think you have to. I think you have to.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where also with the time frame, look at who they play in October.
That's the thing, right? It's not fun.
There's certain benchmarks, right? It's like Ohio State. That's going to be tough. And then a short week going to Oregon, that's going to be tough. Let's see what he does there. And then something I'm really interested in seeing is how does he play against Iowa? Now, that's a game I think that they can win. But we've talked about Iowa. Phil Parker coaches cover 2 like no other.
Amazing.
And, I mean, there's years where they did not have a semblance of an offense, and they were staying in games because they were picking off.
Of course.
If you're sloppy with the ball, if you're not extremely precise, they will kill you. So he's going to have a couple games where you might just get beat up by 2 of the best teams, not just in the league but in the country.
Yeah.
How does he look against those teams, right? How does he look against Iowa after going through the gauntlet of the 2 most talented and probably best teams in the league? What do you look like after that against Iowa? That's one that I'm circling. Something just kind of on the maturity track. What does he look like against Michigan? Obviously a team with a lot of defensive talent, a team that's going to mix coverages, but also a team that's going to have busts, and a team that in every game this year, Wink Martindale has done insane things and people have made him pay. Does he recognize that? Does he make them pay? Just you can look at that with, okay, how you can kind of try to game out, how is he growing? Are there things that we can look at that show, hey, this is something that he would not do in week 1, week 2? Can you look at that? And then once you get into November, the schedule calms down a little bit, doesn't get super easy by any means. I don't think there's really too many weeks off for the rest of the schedule.
Not cool.
But just is he playing within himself? What does the reading of the defense look like? Are the balls coming out on time, on target? You mentioned the deep shots. I don't know, but I would imagine some of that is just building a rapport with your receivers, which comes in live reps, and it helps when your receivers are healthy and can play. But also, is he mechanically doing the things he needs to do to get the ball there? I don't know, but it's if I'm worried about him having accuracy issues, if that stems from something mechanical, is that something where when it's easier to complete a 5-yard pass with bad mechanics than a 50-yard pass? What does that look like? We've seen it, against Maryland, against other teams. It can happen, but he was not necessarily dialed in against Boston College. So we're going to have to see. You have to kind of wait and see. But I still remain profoundly optimistic and hopeful about his direction, just because you see the flashes where it's like that is real deal NFL quarterback stuff. So I remain pretty optimistic. But you do want to start seeing growth here in the next segment of the schedule. Definitely.
I think that sums up the conversation from the last few shows here pretty well. I mean, we touched on a few of that yesterday, certainly after right after the game on Saturday night. But yeah, there's good and bad. I think the good is here to stay, and hopefully the bad can go at some point here. Now, still a little more to come, but first, need to talk your ears off about America's #1 sportsbook. Of course, we are talking about FanDuel, because, of course, they are helping you out this college football season, NFL season. Hey, my Detroit Tiger fans out there, let's go. You could also fancy a wager on your Tigers. 5 games left to go in the season. Also, they got the futures. Will they even make the playoffs? Will they miss the playoffs? They got it for every single sports because, well, that's America's #1 sportsbook. That is just what FanDuel does. And NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. When you get the hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, watch live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. And you'll also get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That is right. That is $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Go ahead, use it on baseball, college football, NFL, wherever you want to use it. FanDuel in the sportsbook, yeah, they're going to take care of you guys. So visit FanDuel.com and enjoy yourself with America's #1 sportsbook with those $200 in bonus bets on your first $5 bet. Again, guys, that is FanDuel.com. we're going to bring up Brian Lindgren right now, but before we really get into the throes of that conversation, I need to call myself out. I get emotional after games. I'm just an irrational human being sometimes. Me jumping the gun and putting the for sale sign in Lindgren's front yard after the first game against FAU, premature. I'm sorry about that. I lost my cool. It's all fine. It's all good because you know what? Not necessarily working with a complete canvas here, or I'm sorry, a palette of paint for his canvas, I should say, if I'm going to do the analogy correct. The run game's been tough. That's been well talked about, especially between me and you, Chase. We've talked about this a lot on this show, and it's not the worst in the nation, but it's certainly not helping things. And it's not just us that think that. Guys, I think Brian Lindgren also senses this too. He's kind of formulating this offense without a lot here. I'm going to bark out some stats at you beautiful people right now, because right now, the run pass split is 50.5%. That is 49th in the country. Okay. Against Florida Atlantic, they want to do ground and pound, just like they talked about at the intro press conference, just like they did at Oregon State. This was a run first team. Well, they tried that against FAU, 24 passes, 37 runs. Okay, Maryland, they're starting to realize, well, that might not work out if it didn't work out against the Owls. They did 38 passes, 34 runs. Prairie View A&M, if you want to count this too, 29 passes, 34 runs. But Boston College, in a rainstorm, dropped back for 40 passes and 28 runs. That is quite the split right there. Certainly not a split that this offensive staff is usually comfortable with, at least at their time at Oregon State. You might notice that the box score reads 35 dropbacks or passes for Aidan Chiles. 40 of them were called pass plays. He had to scramble on 5 of those. So just some context to the numbers there. Now, last year at Oregon State, well, they passed the ball 47% of the time. The year before that, only 39% of the time, which was 121st in the nation. And then before that, 41%. This is an offense that wants to run the ball. They talked about running the ball. And you know what? That's just good old Michigan State culture here, baby. Pound, green, pound. But, oh, boy, it doesn't help that your 2 right guards are out for the season too. So with all this said, you got a quarterback that's kind of turnover prone. You have a run game that you don't really trust. With all that said, sorry about that week 1, Brian. I'm very sorry. And also too, let's talk about how many guys he schemed wide open. Now, we just talked about the last 20 minutes. Hell, they weren't always hit, but I think Lindgren's doing okay. Yeah. Sorry about that in week 1 again, Mr. Lindgren and his family, but yeah, whoops.
Yeah,
got away.
Totally. I think it's going fine. And listen, I think what you said is very true. And also, with what you said about both the guards are down, especially if you're running zone, the one thing you can't have happen with offensive lines in general, but especially when you're running outside zone. And there were some plays that popped against Boston College that were successful, certainly, but it wasn't as consistently down successful as it has been in the past. You cannot get beat across your face play side. That's the entire premise of running stretch is you are sealing somebody to one side, you're using their momentum against them, and then the running back's able to make a cut that makes sense.
Yeah. When
you have a downgrade in athleticism, you can't get there. And we're talking, a quarter of a second, a half a second.
Oh yeah.
Right. The margins are so small in big time college football. It's just, and football in general, it's if you're a half step late, you're beat across your face. The running back has to cut back. A linebacker's coming over the top, and it's what could be an 8-yard gain turns into a 1.5 yard. You're kind of falling forward and trying to scratch out some yards. It's just, and then it's never in a vacuum. The struggle to run the ball puts more pressure on your quarterback, who's then trying to force the ball. And then and then it compounds, and then you have interceptions. It is all very much related. That said, I don't have a problem with the offensive architecture. I really don't. It is not as complex. It is not as varied as what we saw at Oregon State. That should not be surprising. What you saw at Oregon State was a pretty darn good team, a deep team that was the culmination of 3-4 years of building.
Yeah.
To have that
in classes. Yeah.
Right. So there was a lot of stuff that they did that we clipped in kind of the intro welcome to Brian Lindgren's offense film we did, where it's there's a lot of stuff in the backfield with a lot of motion, a lot of we're going to have an orbit motion, then somebody coming in jet from the other way, and we're going to fake 2 handoffs and hand it off to the running back, and then they're going to hit a design cutback. They're not quite doing that yet, and that is okay. There's an entire other level to this offense that they don't have the horses yet. They don't have the players yet, and it's year one, and that's okay. And I'll tell you, you listen to, if you engage with kind of the national college football media, Flipping the Field and Split Zone Duo are 2 podcasts that I listen to a lot. Just that's not a hot take. They're both pretty popular, but just to kind of get the temperature of what people think nationally, not really because I care, just because I think it informs commentary. And I listen to those every week, just to try to keep a finger on the pulse of what people are saying, both in kind of terminally online college football fan and also the kind of established national writers. And everybody would say Michigan State's ahead of schedule. Michigan State's ahead of schedule.
Okay.
Chiles is young. It's sloppy, but they're ahead of schedule. The most important thing that this team can do is make a bowl and get those 15 extra practices. And I still think that's going to happen. There's been nothing to dissuade me from the fact that I think that's going to happen. I truly do. So I think Lindgren's done fine. The best thing that you can do is just, are you putting your players in position to succeed? I think largely speaking, yeah. It's listen, if you can't run inside zone or outside zone, at some point you're just not going to win ball games. And you're going to have to run those plays and do that effectively if you want to win. You can only kind of scheme up so much with that. You have to be able to have a base run play. He has a young quarterback that is turnover prone. He's giving him a lot of designed rollouts, half field reads, the ability to make plays with his legs. If you're looking 1-2, nobody's open, your second or third read is going to be tuck and run. That's all good. And that's giving a young quarterback that clearly has some turnover issues, giving him, listen, it's a half field read. I'm only looking at, somebody in the hook curl, somebody in the flat, somebody downfield. That's it. You're simplifying it. That's helping your players out, giving people easy throws. Just, hey, if somebody's playing an off coverage, we're going to have that inside or outside receiver just convert it to a smoke route where you literally take one step and turn, you catch it, you run forward for 2 yards, get hit, fall forward for 3. That's okay. It's a 4-yard gain. The Patriots did that for years to complement a running game. You know what I mean? Where it's, hey, we can't really run the ball between the tackles. We're going to use a lot of super, super quick passes to build a rhythm, keep our receivers engaged. But also, if you can get 3-4 yards a pop doing that versus, pounding it with your running back, he does things that make sense. And that sounds like it's a truism. That's what should be happening. But I think we all know who've lived through the last few offensive coordinators, that doesn't necessarily always happen. Yeah. And he's asking players to do things that make sense, that are within their capabilities. And I think he's really leveraging the tools that he has. He has some big-bodied receivers that can stretch the field. They're going to throw those deep shots. They're not always going to hit. They may not usually hit, but when they do hit, you're going to win a game at Maryland that people didn't think that they were going to win. You have a really, really good tight end. Velling's been extremely impressive. We're going to absolutely pound the ball with him. Lynch Adams, there's something there, and he's going to use them. And you see him coming out of the backfield a little bit more. Nate Carter has been used out of the backfield. There's now been a drop touchdown in 2 straight games. You don't want that to happen. But it was an element of his game that he had shown coming into Michigan State, and they're using that. And a lot of times having a running back on a wheel, especially if they're matched up on a linebacker, that's a matchup win for that player and an easier throw for that quarterback. It's just he's helping his players out. I don't think the offense is overly complex. I don't necessarily think it has to be. I think I mentioned this probably once every 2 or 3 shows, where it was the 2017 Michigan State game, and Michigan ran like 40 something different looks, so many different twists on their formations, and they got 10 points. You don't have to be complex to be successful. You can just have an offense that makes sense, that puts people in the right position. And if you rep it and you execute it, you're going to be successful. And then you can build wrinkles off of that. So I've got no problem with Lindgren so far. I really don't.
I got to say, because I wanted to end on a mailbag question, but we just did the Jeopardy thing where I think the answer just became before the question. So this is nice because Alex wrote in, what wrinkles would you expect the offense to make to help with the development of Chiles? But I think it's everything you said right there, just cutting the field in half with the rollouts specifically, sure, there's going to be some variation of play action there. That's, what you want to have. That's why you go so run dominant over at Oregon State. But may or may not happen here. I belted out a stat yesterday, actually, that I just want to get your reaction on. This is per Pro Football Focus. They gave Michigan State 4.3 yards per carry against Boston College. They also gave them 4.7 yards after contact. So how many times do you see the yards after contact higher than the yards per carry, actually? Like, that means that you're getting dinged in the backfield a whole lot during that game. So
that is not the best stat.
It's not good. It's not good.
Right.
So read that and my eyes popped out like a cartoon dog. I was like, excuse me? It was that? Oh, yikes. So
something that they could do, and I don't know if they will do it for a couple of different reasons, is Michigan State has done flashes of kind of a quarterback run game, but they have not really fully fleshed it out. I'm not mad about that. I don't hate
it either. Just for the health of Chiles, because I'm sorry, I'm just so anxiety driven about injuries so far this season, which
the easiest way to help a run game is to make it 11 on 11. When it's an 11 on 10 run game, like just automatically you have numbers. And when you're looking just within the box, you have numbers. When you have an 11 on 11 run game where you have to have a safety, a backside linebacker responsible for the quarterback, and also just when it's always in the entire defense's mind, at any point, on any mesh point, if somebody's in pistol, if somebody's set to the side, any mesh point, he could tuck it and run. I don't know if they're reading the defensive end. I don't know if they're running midline. I don't know if it's bash. I don't know if it's dart. I don't know if it's veer. I don't know what they're doing. If you can if you can make people hesitate a half second, if you can mess with the eye discipline a little bit, the easiest way to help a run game is to make it 11 on 11. Now, there's really valid reasons not to do that. And the biggest one is just injury. I mean, especially Michigan State is not really going for the Big Ten title this year.
Right.
If they're saying, listen, we want to protect this kid, and when it's winning time in 1 year, 2 year, whenever, okay, we're going to go for it. But maybe something that you could do is if you have him run a true zone read once in the first quarter, you RP off of it after that, and then maybe you just have like a design QB power to the boundary where hopefully you can get out of bounds. If you can do that a little bit early in the game, which, to be clear, Michigan State has done stuff like that. If you maybe just ratchet that up half a notch, I would, and you do it in ways that are clear that you are establishing like a true mesh point read, that could be something that helps the run game out a little bit, which then helps the passing game out a little bit. And like we said, everything kind of builds off of each other. That could be a wrinkle that I would look for, but I don't know if you want to go, hey, we're playing Ohio State and Oregon with a super injury.
No.
I don't know if you really want
to.
You're going to put this 19-year-old kid in harm's way against, a team of mercenaries that's natty or buck for Ohio State or Oregon. I don't know if you want to do that. I would not blame them for not doing it. I don't even think I'd necessarily advocate for doing it, but it is a wrinkle that is on the table. And there's other stuff that they could do too.
Yeah, I think I had a show in the offseason that actually said they should send Aidan Chiles on study abroad for those first 2 games in October just to guarantee that he doesn't get hurt. So I would never say such a cowardly comment during the season. Of course, that was all in jest.
Right.
But no, I'm very spooked about injuries. And God, how does that happen to a Michigan State fan of all people? So no, but like Chase, once again, just like all sensational stuff. Makes me feel a little better that a smart person like you is on the same side of the aisle as Chiles, that we're not going to bench him or put him in a rocket and blast him up to Mars to never return to East Lansing ever again. I get it. Like, I don't mean to talk down on people too. I understand the frustration. My God, I almost woke both my kids up when he overthrew Montori Foster the other night. Yeah. And I even knew it was going to I was watching like a 5-second delay. I got a text from a buddy. It's like another overthrow. I'm like, well, how bad is this one going to be? And then I almost yelled so loud. Oh my God, I sounded like a wounded dog. So you can be upset, but like,
absolutely. Yeah, no, you don't want to like, that always made me mad when you say that people's, not you, just people. X feeling isn't valid. No, it is. Like, you can be upset.
Yeah. I was unhappy Saturday night.
It's not good. It needs to change. I just think that it will. I really do.
And I know it's Rich hearing it from me, too, who'd wanted Brian Lindgren fired after the first week. Preaching patience over here, but I'm a hypocrite sometimes. Like, what do you want from me? I am who I am. But But over there, that's not a hypocrite, guys. That's Chase Glasser of Spartans Illustrated. Does fantastic work over there in the film room. This will be must read. It's always great insight. Great little GIF action going on you got over there. So, but no, Chase, thanks again for hopping back on. Can't believe you still agree to do this every single week. And guys, I can't believe you guys still watch, still listen every single week. Hey, you know what? You're just part of the madness like we are over here. Locked On Spartans, your team in green and white 5 days a week. We'll be back tomorrow with Locked On Ohio State and then with Justin Thin of 24/7 Sports. But until then, take care of yourselves, guys. Love you all. Go green.